What's going on, everyone? Jayson Tatum. He had an absolute terrible NBA Finals and really didn't show up in a huge way. The Boston Celtics had several games throughout that NBA Finals in which, if they just got like semi production from Jayson Tatum, then they probably would have won that series. And that was a big question, a big sort of what if with the most recent NBA Finals. And the Golden State Warriors ended up pulling it out and winning the championship. And many people questioned Jayson Tatum. Jaylen Brown was over there doing all he could, putting up 20-point fourth quarters, this, that, and the other, and just needed a little production from Tatum to really see them potentially win other games. They won 2 games. They were 2 wins away, and they should have went up 3 games to 1, but ended up kind of falling off at the end. And it was, again, that game that if Jayson Tatum just gives you like 6 to 8 points in that fourth quarter, and as talented and skillful as he is, it should have been something that easily could have been done, but unfortunately didn't. Well, Jayson Tatum recently had an interview with Taylor Rooks over on Bleacher Report and talked about the finals and various other things, but primarily how it just messed with him, how it made him sick after losing the NBA Finals, because that's the pinnacle, that's the goal, right? To do everything you can, go through all the trial and error, go through the 82-game seasons, the stretches, this, that, and the other, to end up winning an NBA Finals. And most teams don't even get to the NBA Finals. There are still teams in this league that have never been to an NBA Finals. And so Jayson Tatum having the privilege to get to a Finals and then losing it just doesn't sit well. Well, Jayson Tatum explained and dove into exactly what was going on and relayed that he actually had an injury. He had a fracture in his wrist. Now, it wasn't his shooting wrist, but it was still his off wrist, which you need for a plethora of things, right? Defense, dribbling. He talks about how like every time he landed to try to catch himself, it was excruciating. And he had to wear a brace and do all of these things to kind of keep it under wraps. Now, whether that's true or not, because the whole thing is that he wanted to keep it hidden from the media, only people eternally knew because he didn't want to miss any games. And this happened during the season and played several months with it. And then once he got to the playoffs, it was still affecting him. And now, supposedly, he's all healed up. But I wanted to play the clip of him basically relaying the information to you, so that way you can hear it from him specifically. So it is about a 4-minute clip, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Here is that clip.
Did you have to deal with any injuries throughout this season?
Actually, I did. We played the Hawks on a Sunday or was it Monday? Whenever the Super Bowl was, we played the Hawks at home. And I remember driving back to the house, and I had my watch on, and in the car, I keep looking at my wrist because it's like something is weighing on it. So, long story short, my wrist was really, really bothering me. And, I started taping my wrist. I had a pad on it, and I started taping my wrist.
In game?
In the game. And my trainer, Nick, who is becoming famous by the day, we had talked about getting it looked at before All-Star break. And I was like, fine, that's cool. But as All-Star break approached, I got nervous to get it looked at because I knew how much pain I was in. Like, I couldn't really push my wrist back. I couldn't, at home, I couldn't hold a plate or a cup. So after each game, I was wearing, a brace to keep it, stable. I had to sleep in it. But I was nervous to go get it checked out because I never want somebody to tell me I can't play. If anybody knows me, my teammates, I never want to miss a game. I've tried to play every game of every season that I can. I hate coming out. I hate getting subbed out. I hate missing. So I pushed it to the side. I didn't go get it checked out before All-Star break. Fast forward to right before the playoffs, during the play-in game, we had 6 or 7 days off. And Nick was like, yo, we got to get it looked at. I'm like, all right, that's cool. But, it's the playoffs, so I don't care what they say. I'm playing.
Yeah.
Come to find out, this was 8 weeks later that it showed that I had a non-displaced fracture in my wrist, and it was small, but it was still
But still, yeah.
like a non-displaced chip. So like I chipped a bone, but it didn't like leave the surface, right? But it has shown that the bone that grew over it, so it healed, but it was still pain. I was still in pain because I kept getting it hit or falling on it. So like I guess I played with like somewhat of a fracture for like 2 months.
Wow.
And then in the playoffs, there was a play against Milwaukee in Game 3. I dunked it. Giannis chased me down and he fouled me, and I fell into the crowd, and that was the most painful it's been since that day that I heard it, and I ended up getting a cortisone shot in my wrist that night, and you could see it.
Yeah, it's like much lighter.
I've lost color in my hand because it kills the fat cells, and there's not a lot of fat in my hand.
Yeah.
So like I've lost color right there. But, after each game I would have to like wear a brace, to shoot around, and I would take it off before the camera saw me, and then, pre-game taking my nap and I have to put it back on, just to make sure it was stable.
So no one knew you were dealing with this injury besides like internally?
Yeah, besides the team.
Yeah.
But it's like, in my mind, if I'm going out there to play, it's like nothing matters. Like,
right.
Everybody's banged up, a little hurt. If you're injured, then you can't play. But that was my whole reason I was scared to get an MRI, because I was like, something is wrong, but like I don't want anybody to tell me I can't play.
Yeah.
So.
But in what ways, if any, did that injury actually affect how you played?
It was just tough. This is not my dominant hand, but, it wasn't as stable. And any time driving to the lane, falling, somebody smacking it, it was just like this extreme, like excruciating pain right here. And, oftentimes, if you pay attention closely, I'm like shaking my hand, or I'm like at the free throw line, like trying to like calm it down. And that would be every game.
Really? Oh my goodness. And now, how does it feel?
It's all good. Taking time off to let it heal properly, and, not get re-aggravated, and things like that.
Yeah.
So there you have it from the man, Jayson Tatum himself, explaining the situation, what happened, what developed, and how it affected him throughout his playoff run and even during the season. And it may go into his consistency. There was a lot of consistency issues when it comes to Jayson Tatum, especially this playoff run. And I know some people might be looking at it as like, oh, it's just an excuse, it's this, that, and the other. But there have been lots of players that have played through injuries. I mean, Kobe Bryant is famous for playing with like broken fingers, broken hands, stuff like that. Like, a lot of these players, they don't want to miss games. They have that competitive nature. And sometimes it's detrimental. I mean, we've seen guys go out there and just risk it all, especially come playoff time. Regular season, okay, maybe you sit out, stuff like that. And then you see people on the opposite side of the spectrum, right? Like somebody like Kawhi Leonard, where if he even has even a slight injury, he'll sit out for months if that's what it takes. So it is good, I guess, to have a guy like Tatum that's that committed. He's willing to play through basically a fractured wrist. However severe it is or not, any nagging wrist injury for a basketball player is disastrous. And again, it affects everything. It's his guide hand when he's shooting, all of those things. It's not his dominant hand, but still, he's a guy that's, ambidextrous in so many ways when it comes to the game of basketball. And so for him to dribble and, play defense, and like he talks about, it's getting hit constantly. Like all of that just keeps re-aggravating it over and over and over again. And so hopefully, because according to him, he is back to 100%. He is good to go, and he is ready to do this season. If that's the case, and they get back to the playoffs, then I expect a different Jayson Tatum. Okay, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Up until this point, I wrote it off as like, look, he's young, he's growing, nerves, stuff like that. It happens. Hopefully, it's a learning experience. Not just that, but Jayson Tatum's personality, he's talked about it countless times about how he doesn't feel he's the guy, and he doesn't think he's a superstar, and this, that, and the other. Even in the Taylor Rook interview, the same interview that I just played for you, it's a full interview, and they even talk about him being a superstar, and he's like, well, what do you define as a superstar? I don't know where I became the poster boy of like, am I a superstar or am I not? So Jayson Tatum has always had those doubts, and you can see it at times on the court. You can really see him kind of like get down on himself and kind of take himself out of the game, especially earlier in his career. Not that he's had, 12 years in the league or anything like that. He's still pretty young, still got a lot of years ahead of him, but he has really improved in the department of like being a better contributor outside of scoring. Right? We saw some of the games where he had like 6 points, but he had 11 assists and 10 rebounds, and he was able to play some solid defense and find other ways to perform and sort of elevate his game even when the scoring isn't happening, which could have went into the wrist injury. Now, he's healthy. Time for him to get back. I expect him to come out blazing, being that guy. We saw a nice little display, although it was very short-lived, but with the Pro-Am, the crossover, we saw him show up and had like 20 points in a quarter, essentially a quarter and a half, which was really great to see. It was very promising. I mean, at one point he hit like 3 threes in a row. Like, he was looking good. He was looking like Jayson Tatum getting back to himself, and I really hope he can continue that, because Boston, whether they keep Jaylen Brown or they make a move for Kevin Durant or whatever turns out to be the final roster with the Celtics team, even if they stand pat right now, they have more than enough to win a championship. They made some really nice moves, bringing in Brogdon, bringing in Gallo. They still have a lot of their guys that are going to have more experience, hopefully are healthier. A lot of questions with Robert Williams. Can he stay healthy? Time Lord, is he going to be able to be that guy that they need, or is he going to have that injury history? If he can stay healthy, this team can be scary. This team could easily be back in an NBA Finals and this time win an NBA Finals. But a lot of that is going to ride on Jayson Tatum. He is their best player. Jaylen Brown is an incredible talent. Jaylen Brown is a great player. He was single-handedly trying to keep the Celtics in those games. He was single-handedly putting up 20-point fourth quarters, doing everything he could to try to win that finals, and just needed a little production from Tatum. Nothing crazy, just give me a little production. And he just wasn't able to show up and deliver. And so I need him to be that guy. I need him to start, whether he believes he's a superstar or not, he's still one of the, if not the best players on the Celtics, whether he chooses to believe it or not. And you need that added boost, whatever it takes for him to kind of get out of his own head at times and be productive and get out there and scoring. I mean, when the shot's falling and everything's going great, he's absolutely dominant, and you can see it. When his confidence is high and he's knocked down a couple shots and, he's feeling himself a little bit. Like, that's the Tatum you need. That's the Tatum that's going to help lead you to a championship. But the Tatum we saw in the playoffs, it just didn't cut it. Now, whether it's the wrist injury or it's a combination of things or whatever it turns out to be, we'll likely never know exactly. But if it is the wrist injury, okay, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt. We'll give you last year. I wrote it off personally as like, hey, it was an experience. He needed it. They were able to climb their way to the NBA Finals. They get back there again, that won't happen again. And I hope it doesn't. But we got to get past that inconsistency issues with Jayson Tatum, because it's like one game, he looks monstrous, put up like 35, 8 and 8, and you're just like, man, this dude is just something else. And the next game, he's got like, 6 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and you're like, this is like pedestrian, like you can't have that from your superstar. You can't have that from your guy. And he is the most talented and gifted on that team. Jaylen Brown, again, is a great player, great scorer, but it's not as easy as it is for Jayson Tatum. Jayson Tatum is by far the better shooter, better playmaker, the guy that can just more easily get his shot. He's more efficient when he's actually in the process of like being that guy. And so if he can kind of be that dude that they need him to be, then yeah, the sky's the limit for this team. This team could be easily right back in the NBA Finals and win the finals this time. The only team that I think they really need to worry about, same team as last year that I think would have beaten them, which is the Milwaukee Bucks. I think Milwaukee was a Chris Middleton away from beating Boston last season. But I think that it would be a great matchup. And I wouldn't be surprised this season if it goes either way, because I really do think that their pickups are hugely beneficial. But anyway, as always, those are my thoughts and opinions, and I pass the question on to you. Let me know yours down in the comment section below. What do you think of Jayson Tatum relaying this injury report? What do you think about him keeping it a secret and keeping it internal? Are you okay with that? Are you glad that, hey, I love the fighting spirit. I love, going out there, playing through injury, playing through whatever it takes. It's the playoffs. Let's make this happen. Or do you think, no, you're too young, too talented. If you got to miss a playoff series or something, then you got to miss a playoff series. It's not about this series. It's about the future. It's about the next one, next several. How do you feel about it? And do you think it's legit? Do you think it was an excuse? How do you feel about this whole situation? And do you think the Celtics can get back to the NBA Finals? And do you think they can win an NBA Finals as currently constructed? How do you feel about it? Love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. That being said, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.